watching this. I am recording this actually the 23rd of December at 8:42 in the evening. I actually just got off a live with you guys and I found this information and I found it really interesting. I am going to go back on and do another live this evening at 9:15, but I wanted to do this pre-recorded video because a lot of the times we go over and we cover so much in our live streams that and if I don't do these pre-recorded videos, some of this information might get lost in the shuffle. So I found this very interesting and I wanted to share this with you guys. So basically the taxi driver who dropped off Madison Mogen and Kaylee Gonzalez the night of the Idaho 4 massacre, the taxi driver that took them home from the grub truck, he's come forward and he's sharing his story with the Daily Mail. And so I found the article and I wanted to share it with you. So I'm just going to read it for you guys because it is a little long, but it's definitely worth the listen. So it's an exclusive that he did with Daily Mail, and it says, "My job was to get these girls home safe. Private taxi driver who drove Idaho roommates Kaylee and Madison home hours before they were murdered says he is haunted by his role in delivering them to their deaths." The private taxi driver who drove Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogen home the night they were killed broke his silence in an interview with DailyMail.com. He is believed to be the last person to see the pair alive after picking them up from the grub truck in downtown Moscow in the early hours of November 13th. "I had known Kaylee and Maddie and Zaina too. They would occasionally get rides home and there was nothing out of the ordinary about that night," he said. The driver, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said he's replayed the night a million times over but can't recall anything that was amiss. The driver who took the two of the murdered University of Idaho students home the night they were killed has broken his silence to tell how he is haunted by the knowledge that his job was to get them home safe, but instead he delivered them to their deaths. Speaking for the first time and exclusively to DailyMail.com, the private taxi driver, who was probably the last person to see friends Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogen alive, said, "It weighs on me. I've replayed that night a million times over, trying to think if there was some sort of sign, some detail that something was amiss, but nothing. There was nothing. It's not lost on me that my job was to get these girls home safe, but that didn't really help this time." And then there's a picture of the girls there, and then the whole group right here. We've seen these pictures before. The 4 were slaughtered across the upper floors of 3-story home on King Street in Moscow, Idaho, while other 2 students slept in rooms below. The shocking killings marked the first homicides in Moscow in 7 years, and with no leads shared, nor suspects named, many have questioned the town's police department's investigators' ability to handle a crime of such magnitude. Today, the man who drove Kaylee and Madison home has recounted his recollections of that night and claimed that the community is living in fear with little faith in the Moscow Police Department. Speaking on condition of anonymity, he said, "I had known Kaylee and Maddie and Zaina too. They would occasionally get rides home and there was nothing out of the ordinary about that night." Surveillance footage of Kaylee and Maddie showed the girls picking up pasta at the grub truck around 1:40 a.m. after ending their evening out at a nearby corner club bar in downtown Moscow. "I picked them up about 1:45, said the driver. "They had their food and they were super excited about their mac and cheese, as girls are after they go to the club. They sat in the back and they chatted. They were normal just like any other night. They weren't upset about anything or talking about anyone." The driver said he was familiar with surveillance footage in which one of the girls appears to be talking about somebody called Adam earlier the evening, but he'd said they didn't talk about him or any boy on that ride. Moscow police have contacted Adam, who they have described as cooperating with their investigation. According to the driver, sometimes the girls would talk about boys, but that night they were just excited about their food. There was no apprehension, no weird feelings here, no uptightness. There was no nervousness about them. They weren't afraid of anybody. There was nobody following them or following us. There was absolutely nothing about that ride that was different or abnormal. They were typical sorority girls talking away, and half the time they didn't even pay a lot of attention to us drivers. We're just kind of doing our thing. The driver said he didn't pull right up to the door of the girls' house, stopping instead on the street out front. He said, I just sort of pulled in front of their driveway. I didn't pull right into the parking lot. I usually try not to do that because it's an easy way to get robbed. I try to stay in positions where I can go either direction so I can get away if I have to. It's never happened, but you hear about these things. But on that night, he saw and felt no threat. In fact, he said, I didn't watch them go all the way in. There were the two of them. It's a relatively safe place. It's not something I would usually sit and watch. Sometimes I absolutely will ask or intervene if I feel a kid needs help. I've taken kids to get their stomachs pumped if I feel they have to. This is a college town. These kids are just trying to live their lives. We drivers try to look out for them. They don't need to be preyed on. The fact that Kaylee, Madison, and their friends were so brutally murdered within a couple of hours of him making that drop off has the driver said, weighed on him. He said, I've been driving here for years. It weighed on me. It was rough to think I was one of the last people to see them alive. When I saw the news on Monday, it occurred to me I was in the neighborhood, but that was before they released the names. As soon as I was for sure it was the girls, I went to the police. He said, swiftly eliminated from inquiries, having provided officers with a wealth of digital data and the timed receipt from the Taco Bell to which he went after dropping the girls back home. In the week since the murders, he has watched, he said, with dismay as police have shared little information with the families of the victims have grown increasingly impatient. He said, I took about a week off driving. When I stepped back from it all, those kids deserve justice and they're not getting it. It feels to this community like the police aren't even trying, which is 100% related to how they aren't communicating with the community. People are scared. Most of us have very little faith in the Moscow Police Department. We can't tell if we're watching qualified investigators who have a handle of the situation or if they're completely at a loss and grasping for straws. Moscow police have pushed back at the suggestion that inexperienced officers, the lead investigator, has only been a cop for 2 years, are hammering or have already botched the investigation. No murder weapon has been recovered and no suspect named, but police are still seeking the occupants of a white 2011 to 2013 Honda Elantra with unknown license plate caught on CCTV in the area near the time of the killings. There are now 6 detectives from Moscow Police Department, 62 FBI agents, 13 Idaho State Police investigators, and 15 uniformed troopers assisting with community patrols and forensic experts working through the painstaking task of processing evidence recovered from the scene. Meanwhile, Idaho Governor Brad Little has directed up to $1 million in state emergency funds for ongoing investigation. But so far, all the information MPD has shared concerns parties they have eliminated from their inquiries, including the driver, the 2 surviving roommates, a hooded male seen in the grub truck surveillance video, the male they called numerous times during the hours of the morning, anyone present at the house when the 911 call was made, and the 6th person named on the lease who had moved out of the home before the school year started and was not present at the time of the murders. Moscow Police Chief Jim Fry defended the investigation during an appearance on News Nation Thursday. He said the investigation had been handled properly. We went over that actually in our live from today. This morning, we went over that News Nation their interview. So if you'd like to watch the whole interview on that, it is posted on my page. It'll be the live from Thursday afternoon. We secured this scene quickly, he said. We called in the state police. We did our due diligence in getting the things we needed to do to have this be a solid case all the way through. We called in the state lab to collect evidence, and I believe it was the initial stuff that we started and how we did things that will help bring this to a conclusion. I think there are some misconceptions out there and how we operate here in Moscow. We've called in ATF in the past. We've called in the FBI in the past on many of these big cases because they have resources that we don't. and we want to have the best investigators here. We've always done the investigations with help of our federal and state partners. We're continuing the investigation. We're continuing to push on. Like I said from the very beginning, I'm very confident we will have a conclusion in this timeline as things develop, and we're following up on all of those things. We're conducting a lot of interviews and putting the puzzle pieces together. There's a lot of things we don't know. We're not sure where the individual who responsible is. Every tip helps. Earlier this week, during a Today Show interview, Shannon Gray, an attorney representing the family of Kaylee Gonzalez, said the family is increasingly frustrated with the apparent lack of progress in the case. And it says, this is the end little bit here. We want to let them know that we are holding them accountable for their decisions, he said. And if they are in over their heads, then acknowledge that and turn the investigation over to someone who is more versed in handling these types of matters. I'm not sure you're capable of handling a quadruple murder, he said. So that is the end of the article there. I just wanted to, get on here and read that to you guys. It seems to be pretty important because it's something we've been missing. The taxi driver, the guy that drove them home, he has come forward now and he has stated, hey, I picked the girls up. They were happy about their pasta. They're excited about their food. They didn't mention anybody in the car, but hey, they really weren't talking to me. I just did my job. I dropped them off. They went inside. And, that was the end of that. So with that being said, that's another piece of the puzzle that we do have. We'll have to go into a deep dive into this a little bit more. I'm sure with him coming forward to Daily Mail, more information will come out about him because that's how the internet works, right? So with that being said, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you love true crime. And I will see you guys all in my next video. Thank you guys so much and have a wonderful night. And if you guys are watching this around Christmas, have a Merry Christmas. Bye, guys.